telling you, man, if we as an industry are in the news, it's not good for us. I mean,
not good at all.
No, they're not going to be. Okay, hold on one second, because welcome everybody. This is It's Covered, the insurance podcast. Because if you think insurance is boring, you are not doing it right. I am Paul, and I am joined by Mel. Mel, how's it going, man?
It's going great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So yeah, we're just discussing this article that this is actually from a couple of weeks ago. Actually, about 3 weeks ago. And it does seem like every time insurance in general makes the news, it's not usually about how this awesome, insurance policy that was just sold you just rebuilt your entire house for you or anything like that. I mean, we've all had those claims, but that's, I certainly haven't made the news because of that. Mel, I'm pretty sure you haven't either.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no.
If it's flattering to insurance, it's our own commercials.
Right, exactly. But we do want to thank you for coming back. This is episode number 2, which means that Mel, overnight, this is how good we are. We have doubled the number of episodes of It's Covered overnight.
That's too good.
That's not bad. I don't think we'll be able to do that again. But yeah, thank you for our loyal listeners, because we know that you are already loyal, that you have already seen the vision of this, that we are here. We are here to watch after each other, to make sure that we all get better at this job together, that we work hard to protect our customers, to serve our neighbors by making sure that they are protected against the worst that's going to happen. And so you've already seen it, and you are here for week 2, but you're already here for the long haul. And I want to thank you for coming back. For our new listeners, I want you to go back in our archives, because there's a lot of good content there. We had like a 30-second episode 0. That was just a joke that we did. And then episode 1. So this is like a really deep archive, right? And so it'll take you very little time to catch up.
And you do want to catch up.
Right. Yes. No. I mean, if you don't catch up now, you're never going to,
True.
Because, I mean, if you keep going and you're at episode 100, are you really going to jump back and it's like, oh, I forgot episode 1. So take the opportunity now. Just jump in head first and come along this ride with us. But we got this article. It's actually from January 18th of this year. From WLWT, that is an outlet out of Cincinnati. Being not in Cincinnati, I know nothing about them. The article is written by Megan Mitchell. And let's give a kind of a once-over of this, what's going on here. So this lady, 3 years ago, keep this in mind, 3 years ago, hits a pothole. And she's confused about why her rates went up, why this was considered an at-fault accident against her. My first question, even before we get into the article, all right, my first question is, what kind of slow news day was it that you're reporting about claims that happened 3 years ago? Right? I mean, and secondly, and this is why, and this is one of the reasons we want to discuss this, is why is she still confused 3 years later? All right. Now we have actually a real danger here, because either this lady is just not paying attention, or no one is actually walking through this with her to explain what happened. But let's get into the article a little bit. So, all right, it starts off. This is not me. This is not me making commentary. This is how this news article starts. It may not be your fault, but you could be paying for it for years. Damage to your car from potholes is costing drivers money out of their own wallets in an unexpected way. Now, I know our audience, and I know there's some new agents, new adjusters here, but very few of us think that this is going to be unexpected. I'm just, the spoilers. This is a spoiler, but we're all expecting what's happening next, right? All right. So this is a quote from this lady who had the claim, Sharon Walker. But I'm angry. As an individual, an everyday woman, I shouldn't have to be paying this much for insurance. Walker is a single foster mother living in Roselawn. She slammed into a pothole that did $1,200 in damage to her car. This is the first good thing that the article said. She slammed into a pothole. For the first time, we actually have an admission of what actually happened here, right?
Right.
Before it was damage to your car from potholes. Like the potholes were sneaking up on you at night and fiddling with the wires underneath, right? Because the damage was so expensive, Walker reported to her insurance, covered the cost after her deductible. The company then raised her rates because pothole damage got reported as a collision. And this is Walker's quote. And I've never had a car wreck voluntarily, me hitting someone else. Never had one. And this is where, okay, this is a print article, right? So I don't know what she was sounding like saying this, but this is what I'm imagining. I'm imagining her like starting the sentence and then realizing what she's saying and trying to backtrack it. So I'm gonna try to reconstruct this. All right. I've never had a car wreck, voluntarily. Me hitting, someone else, It's like she's back, like I've never had a car wreck, and like clearly she has. She just slammed into a pothole, right?
That's right.
And so now we've got to add to the definition of a car wreck that should be charged to you voluntarily. Right? This is like me driving down the road. I wonder if I shall have a car wreck today. It seemed a good day for it. Let me slam into this person. Most of these car wrecks, they happen because of negligence, but they're not like what we would call voluntary. We mess up and then we get into a situation we can't get out of is what normally happens.
Those crazy other drivers causing mischief.
Right. Yes. And then she further clarifies what she means by an accident. Me hitting someone else. Mel.
Yes.
Is that the definition of a collision? Voluntarily,
no.
Me hitting someone else, not something, someone else.
That is, I guess, maybe Hollywood's definition of when they're making a movie and they say, we need a collision here.
Well, yeah.
The first thing you think of is, two cars at very high speed crashing into each other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unless it's like The Island, which they're just pushing, giant concrete blocks off the back of a truck and having people smash into them, which was a really great scene, by the way. But yeah, so I mean, and look, I mean, the listeners to this show, I'm sure there's some people out there that just really like the sound of my voice. And you're not insurance professionals, but maybe, you really like this stuff. I get it. I mean, if I had to leave insurance tomorrow, I'd probably listen to myself as well. But most of us are insurance professionals. We know what's going on here. Yes, you can cause a collision with something that is not another person. You can cause a collision with a pole, with a house. You can cause a collision with a tree. You can cause a collision even with the road. And I mean, like I said, one of two things is going on with this case. Either this lady is just not listening to anyone, and people have tried to talk to her about this, or she really just doesn't know better. And I mean, look, we've been in claims. We've had plenty of cases of both things happening, right? I mean, I constantly had the kind of phone call. Well, and I'll tell you a quick story. I had one lady who, when I was in claims, she was getting flat out denied for some medical treatment. And the reason she was getting denied was very clear. She wasn't in the car. She was down the street. She just wanted to get, to go to her shrink because of trauma, knowing that her car had been bumped in a parking lot. And so she was getting flat out denied. And every month she would call me and pretend like we hadn't spoken before and say, Paul, I just wanted to check on my medical claim. And I would have to calmly explain to her that we've already spoken and it was denied. And so that may be what's going on here, right? Is that she's just not listening to reason. But it also could be the case that no one is sitting down with her and explaining the way things are.
And especially not the insurance agents that she probably called over those 3 years, trying to switch from that company that she thinks did her wrong.
Well, yeah, exactly. This well, I mean, look, we get those calls all the time, right? And, it's like, well, I see you have an at-fault accident from last year. That wasn't my fault. That, that was some other problem. And there's really nothing we can do. We just tell them, well, your insurance company reported it at fault, But,
exactly.
So, okay. So the main reason I wanted to bring this up is first of all, and I'm not going to read the entire article here, but it does go into the fact that this happened 3 years ago, and the rate increase was $25 a month. Look, that I was. Knowing what I know, I was expecting it to be more, but I don't want to say anything. Lady's a single mother. She might not be able to afford the extra $25 a month. She might have already been paying quite a bit of money for insurance. And this is just, kind of making the situation worse. But the fact that this happened 3 years ago and they are reporting it like this is a news story. And of course they ended up calling, it looks like they called the insurance board to ask about it. And there's actually some good information at the end of the article. I wish they'd put it much further up, but there's some good information in the article. The news team did make an effort to do that, but they don't ever actually do enough research to explain why, yes, you are at fault for slamming your car into a pothole. And this is something very important for people to know. And this is what brings us to what we were talking about it as we were coming into the show, is that, look, the news is going to run stuff that is going to be sensational, that is going to bring about outrage, that's going to get emotions up. They're not going to run a story about how you got a family, the life insurance policy, and a week later, a year later, a decade later, the guy dies and now the family can stay in their home. They're not going to do that story. Maybe if you have a small town paper or a neighborhood paper or something and they want to do a feel good story, that's not what they normally run. They're going to try to drum up the emotions. I can't believe this evil insurance company would do that. And so you have to get well into the article to realize, hey, this actually was 3 years ago. And and not like last month. And we're also not going to do enough research to be able to explain, no, what the insurance company did was dead on right.
They probably had a series that they were doing of exposing the wrongdoings and ran out of stories right. And kind of threw this in there.
Right. Yes. Yeah. They went directly from, the city manager who's been, stealing millions of taxpayer dollars. And I'm making all this up. I have no idea. It'd be really ironic if that were actually happening in Cincinnati right now. I don't think it is. I was making that up, but it'd be really hilarious if it did. But yeah, they went directly from that and they're like, hey, we promised 3 parts to this. Well, I got this email 3 years ago from somebody. We could follow up on that. And of course, this lady's still angry, but that's not unusual. I mean, when we ask about accidents from like 3 years ago, people are still pissed. I gotta say, they're still definitely pissed, especially when they think that they're not at fault. But okay, so let's get down to it. Here's the good advice that is actually not all that great, but it's still better than the rest of the article. If the car itself is damaged, it's the last paragraph in the whole article. If the car itself is damaged, you can claim it under your collision coverage, but you should talk to your insurer about the total cost, including potential rate increases, to see if it's worth it. That is fantastic advice. Mel.
Yeah.
What is going to happen if an insured calls claims to inquire about whether she should or he should file a claim or not?
Well, right after she or he asks that question, should they file a claim, and they're calling in to check, the claims person is going to ask a series of questions about the claim. So I'm pretty sure the person right on the other line will give up that information, just kind of thinking the other person is being nice and wants to
give
an accurate opinion.
Yes.
And is asking questions about it.
Yes.
But that's not the case.
No, well, yeah, I mean, they might be concerned, they might be nice, but the next thing you're going to hear is, and here's your claim number, right?
Bingo. That's it.
Because the insurance company has an obligation to file a claim that they get notice of. And look, that's not the insurance company trying to be a jerk, right? That's the law.
Yes.
If they get notice of a claim, they got to file the claim. Now, it might not be too late to get that no claimed and, zero payout. And they might dodge some grief that way. But this is where the agent comes in. And look, and I know we're gonna do episode 2 with some controversy, Mel. I know there's several of you agents who have made the decision that that if you get notice of a claim, that you are filing that claim, and that's the decision you got to make, and that's cool. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong on that. My philosophy on this is that this is a question that the insured needs an answer to before they're committed to a claim. And that's what I believe, and that's what I'm going to give that person. And so, somebody calls me, it's like, this is what happened. So if this lady calls one of us, this is what happened. Okay. This is going to be a collision claim, and this will be listed as an at-fault claim. Why is that fault? I hit a pothole. Right, you hit a pothole. And we as drivers have obligations to drive in such a way that we can dodge those type of things. It might seem unreasonable, especially on certain roads. I've driven those roads. I know you have too. but that's the expectation, the obligation. And so I leave it up to the customer. If you want to file a claim, I will help you with it. I will support you in it. If you want to get an estimate first to see what the cost will be, but you will have this, at the end of the day, this is what's going to happen. And so if your company does not have any sort of, accident forgiveness type of a thing, this is what's going to happen. Or, or yeah, we're going to use this kind of accident forgiveness, but now it's gone. Or we're going to use it and you're fine. Whatever the case may be, the customer needs to know these things. And so 3 years down the road, we don't get a sentence like, and I never had a car wreck voluntarily, me hitting someone else. If this was my customer, then she would know that she just had a car wreck. Now, she might not want to admit it, and she might, say this same statement to the news person because she's pissed, but she's going to know. And that's what, that's what we as agents, we as insurance professionals should be doing. We need to be looking out for our customers. This is how we serve our neighbor. This is how we help them, is by not telling them what they want to hear, not sit there like this reporter and say, I can't believe they increased your rates. But no, we serve them by giving them their options, telling them how we should expect each option to play out, and the result of each option kind of at the end of the day. That's how we serve them. That's how we lend our expertise to someone.
And I think that that is something that claims is expecting from us, because if they hear from the customer that was never explained to them, it's not claims' job to explain it.
Yeah. I mean, there were many times that as an adjuster, I reached out to the agent just kind of for support in that area, that they were the customer was not listening and not understanding why this was at fault or something else, or why they did not have, this particular coverage or whatever it was. And I mean, the worst case scenario, the absolute worst case scenario is when the agent just blindly takes the insured side on everything, even when it's painfully obvious that it's not right. Because that's what turns pretty much any customer into this. For the next 3 years, that customer is going to be believing that they got totally screwed, by claims, and even the agent was on their side, but he couldn't do anything about it. And now this customer is a victim of everything that happened. And I tell you, it is long term. You know what? That's an easier conversation to have with a customer. Yeah, you're right. Oh, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that to you. That's an easier conversation to have. But how are you serving that customer? You're not. You're just trying to get out of a rough conversation. How are you serving your neighbor there? And that's our goal. Look, I mean, we're in an industry that provides an incredible service for people. And like, like I'm going to say over and over again, my hope is that we all get exceedingly well paid for providing that service. But that service is lending our expertise to help protect the customer, not to be their drinking buddy. You can be the drinking buddy on the weekend, but when you are acting as an agent, then you are lending your expertise to help protect someone. That is something that we need to be taking to heart. That is something that we need to be actively concerned about when we're having conversations with people.
That's exactly right. I mean, we head into insurance. The state puts us through a rigorous training schedule with making sure that we are licensed to be professionals, to talk to the public and protect them. Just like you explained. And when we get into the trap of day-to-day salesmen and just want to sell the policy and give them whatever they want just to get them to say, okay, I'll do it. That's not what the state put in place for us being professionals to help the customers and get them insurance.
Yeah, man, I wish having that license meant that people knew what they were talking about. But that is not always the case. But yeah, for sure, that is a trust that, that people are putting into it to us, that, they need these things so that if something happens, they are not going to be just utterly wiped out. And you passing that exam, you getting your license is first of all, it's great. It's an incredible accomplishment. Now you are authorized to by the state to sell insurance or to adjust claims or whatever role you're taking in this process. And people trust that, whether they should or not with you. They don't, half the time they don't know you from Adam, but they trust that. So don't betray their trust. I'd say as important as our media is, as important as having a free press is, writing stories about a 3-year-old claim just to rile up emotions, to get people upset and outraged. This isn't somebody who is serving their neighbor. This isn't somebody, honestly, that we should be putting our trust in. And, those of you in Cincinnati who know this reporter better, maybe write in. And what is our email? Okay, it's coveredpodcast@gmail.com. Please write in and tell me that, no, she's awesome. She's just having a bad day. She just exposed the city manager for, stealing millions and blowing it on cocaine. I just added that part to the story. None of that is actually true at all. But
it did sound more interesting.
No. Cocaine and hookers, man.
Draws a crowd.
Absolutely. That would be an interesting story. I'm going to get a call from the city manager. I know it.
I think I have a story like that.
About a city manager?
We'll save it for another time.
Tune in next week. We're probably not going to tell that story next week, but oh goodness. What was this? Okay. You are in position. You are in position wherever you are, whether you're an agent, you're a customer service rep in an agency, you're an adjuster, whatever you're doing in this industry, you have an opportunity today, unless you're off today, but obviously we'll deal with tomorrow. But today, you have an opportunity to serve your neighbor, to protect your neighbor, and to get paid well for it, which is great. There's so few industries where, seriously, with 24 hour, have you checked out what goes on the 24-hour a day news channels? They're constantly putting out fluff like this. You are in an industry where you are able on a daily basis to protect people from losing everything. So do it. So go out there and do it to the best of your ability. These people are putting their trust in you. Make sure that you are trustworthy. Make sure that when somebody comes to you and is asking if it's worthwhile to file a claim, that you're pointing them in good directions. Whatever you've decided, your answer is going to be in that moment, based on your conscience, whatever it is. Do it. Make sure that you are helping protect your customer. When they come to you and it's like, why in the world did I get this rate increase? Don't blow them off. You're you're there to help them understand this. Make sure they understand it so that if they do run to the news media, they've had it explained to them. They just don't like it. And that's going to happen sometimes, unfortunately, that we're also here to give out unpleasant news at times. Hopefully not too often, though. We got anything else to cover?
I think that's about it.
Y'all come check us out at itscovered.net. That's our website, itscovered.net. You can also reach us, email itscoveredpodcast@gmail.com. But if you go to our website, you can get a free ebook. We are committed to standing with you to help make all of us better at our jobs, better insurance professionals, better able to serve the public in this profession. And in that vein, I did write an ebook that I want you to have for free. Go to itscovered.net and you will find it there. It is 6 insurance claims pitfalls. And, surprisingly enough to a lot of agents, when it comes to problems with claims, there's actually a lot that the agent can do to help solve those, to help fix them, and to make sure the customer is satisfied during the claims process, which is that's the point. I mean, that is, before that point, what we're selling is peace of mind. That's all we're selling, or the insurance card so they can get their car registered. But we're selling peace of mind until that moment. And then we've been making them promises for days, weeks, months, or years. And that's when they come to pass. And you don't want that ruined because the person can't get a hold of an adjuster. So that ebook is going to help you along the way. I do hope that you will check it out. We will see you next week with episode 3, where we will increase the number of episodes by 50% overnight.
There you go. See you next week.